Scotland and northern England through this morning. The rain breaking up and easing a little bit as we head into the afternoon. Across Scotland, like I say, there will be some showers around, could be falling as sleet or snow, but also some sunny spells. A chilly feel here though, temperatures struggling. Meanwhile, across central and southern England, well, lots of fine sunny weather to be had and temperatures well above average for the time of year, feeling, well, relatively warm in the sunshine for some. As we go into the evening, sticking with the chilly feel across parts of Scotland, a bit of frost developing quite quickly as we go overnight, and also a few more showers, some still falling as sleet or snow. Across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England, staying pretty cloudy. There will be a few outbreaks of rain at times as well, not as heavier as they will have been during the daytime. And then further south, well, central parts of England and Wales, ending the day largely fine, but rain, persistent and heavy, pushing into some southern counties and then feeding further northwards as we go overnight. Now, it is going to be quite heavy. We could see some rainfall totals building up for some places, but across the northern half of the UK, staying drier with some clearer skies across parts of Scotland, so temperatures dropping even further. Could get as low as -4, -5 Celsius in some places, much milder where we have the cloud and rain further south. That rain's going to continue then for many places across England and Wales as we go through tomorrow. It could be quite heavy, particularly across the hills and mountains towards the south of Wales. High rainfall totals, perhaps up to 100 millimetres, could cause some impacts, particularly around some east-facing slopes. Further north, staying bright and fine, just a few showers to watch out for. Chilly here, much milder towards the south, but unpleasant in the wind and rain.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the nation, because the truth matters, and so do you.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Drivers on the M74 northbound expect partial blocking between junction 15 and junction 14 because of a road incident. Near Barnsley, the M1 southbound entry slip at junction 37 remains closed due to a vehicle accident. Bolton's M61 southbound between junction 4 and junction 2 is experiencing a 10-minute delay due to congestion. Additionally, Avanti West Coast services are disrupted between Lockerbie and Oxenholme Lake District, while Great Western Railway has replaced trains with taxis between Exeter, St David's and Barnstaple. Stay up to date at gbnews.com for more travel news.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Feet earlier this year as part of the first group to trek the same route as Lawrence of Arabia.
A former Special Forces officer, Howard Leedham, followed in Lawrence's footsteps across Saudi Arabia and Jordan in a 25-day journey. And I'm very happy to say he joins us now. Howard, thank you very much for coming to see us.
Thank you for having me on. Now,
talk us about what you're putting on, having completed that remarkable trek.
Well, we did the trek in January and February, and I was odd enough to lead a team of Special Forces Club members to do the entire route that Lawrence did in 1917. 685 miles, 1,100 kilometres, took us 25 days. We started off with 5 riders, 4 riders made it. And the last 9 days we spent in Jordan. And one of the things that in Saudi, we would basically follow Lawrence's route from water to water and go to the same wells that he had gone, because that's what they had to do, as they worked their way around the Nefed Desert. And then, obviously, when they came in towards Aqaba, because the guns in Aqaba all faced towards the sea, yeah. so they had to cross the uncrossable desert to get into the back of Aqaba. And when you come into Jordan, what strikes you is, because of the topography and because of the way that the history is so well recorded in that area, is that you can basically follow almost a precise route that he followed, and basically sleep in the same places that he slept. So you can really feel what they were doing and how they tactically moved down in order to take the port of Aqaba.
GB News, the People's Channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question, that's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and want to have an open discussion.
My name's Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GBNews in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GBNews, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, 9:30 on Thursday the 13th of November, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Downing Street debacle continues. A Labour civil war is breaking out as Cabinet Ministers demand the Prime Minister sacks his chief aide, Morgan McSweeney, as fury grows over briefings against the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting.
Most unwarranted attack on a faithful since Joe Marler was banished in the Traitors final, and I think whoever's been briefing this should spend a little less time watching Celebrity Traitors and a bit more time watching Country File.
Border disorder. Shocking new footage shows people smugglers and migrants brazenly operating in French coastal towns before they no doubt jump on a small boat to Britain.
Locals in the likes of Dunkirk and Calais say they are almost nightly terrorised by migrants, rioting and also getting up to increased levels of criminality.
Is the President prepared to bankrupt the BBC?
The President has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidised by British taxpayers.
Well, that was the US Press Secretary, Caroline Leavitt, telling GB News' Bev Turner that the lawsuit against the BBC is going ahead and the broadcaster has until tomorrow to remove their doctored panorama clip of Donald Trump. Will they do it?
Online grooming spikes. There's been an almost doubling of online grooming crimes in the past 8 years. A 4-year-old boy, can you believe that? A 4-year-old boy was among the victims.
And an independent review says the ISIS bride, Shamima Begum, who is currently in a detention camp in Syria, should return to Britain to prevent human rights violations. Should she stay?
No. Yes.
Or chat eye to eye. It comes down, goes under a table, leaves less adoptions in the home, but also takes you outside. We've got 4-wheel drive and more torque than a 2-litre diesel engine.
Well, we're going to be joined by the inspirational former Royal Marine Commando Phil Eaglesham, who contacted Q fever in Afghanistan. He's invented a wheelchair which allows him to chat eye to eye with people. You mustn't miss that interview. Shamima Begum has been rejected by the courts. We do not want her back here. How do we know she would have been de-radicalised? Would you want her in your street?
Well,
next
there
door?
has to be some sort of consequences
yes.
For what she's done. And this kind of idea that international law means that you can never, ever deprive people of their liberty or their state, I don't think it's particularly working. I don't think it'd be a particular popular move to bring her back.
If the Home Secretary brings her back, we'll be in big, big political problems. Now, we'd love to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments too.
gbnews.com/your say. But first of all, here's your 60-second news update with Sophia Hill.
Miriam, Andrew, thank you. Very good morning. These are the top stories just after 9:30. Sir Keir Starmer says he'll investigate briefings that unleashed a leadership row as he faces pressure to overhaul his, quote, toxic Downing Street operation and sack Chief of Staff Morgan McSweeney. A little bit of good news for the economy. Growth has just stayed in positive territory. UK GDP rose by 0.1% over the past 3 months, despite a cyber attack at Jaguar Land Rover hitting manufacturing in September. And GB News can reveal that people smugglers and migrants are operating with near impunity in northern France. Exclusive footage shows groups of migrants wearing life jackets and wandering through coastal towns unchallenged by the police. The UK's first small modular nuclear reactor will be built in Wales, backed by £2.5 billion of government investment. And the Princess of Wales will host her annual Christmas Carol service at Westminster Abbey for a 5th year running. The power of love and togetherness are to be the focus this year. Those are the top headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, it's a civil war and it's getting deeper and deeper and a lot worse. Allies of Sir Keir Starmer have warned Labour plotters that removing him could trigger an early general election, which, frankly, they'd lose.
Well, the polls would suggest that definitely. The Prime Minister is under pressure to sack his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, after Number 10 was accused of briefing against the Health Secretary. Andrew, this is such a mess. They've created a story out of nothing.
I know.
There may or may not have been plots against the leader. There always are plots in Parliament. But to dignify it by coming out and making it into a story in the mainstream media is insane.
Labour MPs could have dismissed, oh, it's just Westminster tittle-tattle, it's people like you, Pearce, just stirring it up. There's no evidence there's any plot against the Prime Minister. Number 10 briefed 2 newspapers, the BBC, saying that there was, and naming Wes Streeting, who is, I've written in the Mail today, is probably one of the government's most effective cabinet ministers and certainly most effective media performers. And he said he's been kneecapped by Downing Street. Kneecapped.
But it's given him an opportunity to shine. And we played some of the clips of him being interviewed, and he's one of the few politicians who can bring popular culture and humour into his interviews. And that leaves an impression, whether or not you agree with his politics, it leaves an impression that this is somebody with a personality, with a bit of dynamism. And, you know, whoever set up this briefing was obviously trying to bring him down. Well, I think it's had the opposite effect.
Yeah, and a lot of Labour MPs I talked to yesterday suspect it's Morgan McSweeney, who is the Downing Street Chief of Staff, trusted aide of the Prime Minister, the most trusted aide of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, according to Ed Miliband, the Climate Change Secretary, will sack the person responsible for the briefing. We also know that the Prime Minister telephoned Wes Streeting to apologise. It was apparently a very brief call. Funny
I can imagine. Bit awkward. But, I mean, Morgan McSweeney is an experienced, wily political operator. I'd be surprised if he's done something that's quite so blunt. It could be anybody in Number 10 who's got the contact details of those newspapers.
Yeah. If it was designed to shut down, I mean, I would say now it feels to me like a full-scale civil war.
Yeah.
And lots of MPs rallying to the side of Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, who's played a blinder, frankly, hasn't he?
And it's a distraction because all the people in Number 10 who are supposed to be working to deliver policies, to prepare the budget, all the other jobs of government are now fighting fires in the media and probably panicked calls from MPs wondering what's going to happen, whether they're going to keep their seats and all those things. Yeah, very frustrating.
Well, let's speak to somebody who knows a lot about briefing against Prime Ministers. That is Shaun Woodward, who was a Cabinet Minister under Gordon Brown and has been around the political scene for a very long time. Shaun, good morning to you. We haven't spoken for a very long time.
Good morning.
This must be déjà vu for you, because Gordon Brown, when he was Prime Minister, was constantly briefed against, and there was constantly talks of plots, all of which undermined his premiership.
Well, they don't help. But, you know, Andrew, I think I'm going to kind of take my lead here from Wes Streeting yesterday. I mean, the only thing that's missing from this right now is Claudia Winkleman. I mean, what we actually need is Claudia walking around everybody and trying to work out who are the faithfuls here and who are the traitors. And I say all that because there is an element, and you and I have seen this, and dare I say it, over decades. This happens in politics. And I think for me, what's really telling here, obviously from the country's point of view, it's the country. But in the political dimension, what's telling here is how the Prime Minister will manage this period, because it's a very testing period, but Gordon Brown knew it. I mean, Tony Blair knew it. Before that, John Major knew it. Think about him, and I think he called them bastards, didn't he? He knew it at the time of Maastricht. And of course, Mrs. Thatcher suffered the penalty because she didn't pay proper attention to some of these problems. And she was replaced by John Major. In other words, this happens in politics. So this in itself is not remarkable. What is The thing to observe here is how well or not the Prime Minister manages and navigates this situation. And if we turn it into a sophisticated game of celebrity traitors, political traitors, bring on Claudia Winkleman. What I really hope happens here is that we do actually get back to doing what the country did a year and a half ago, which is electing a government to govern the country. He's got to get his government now focused on governing. These things happen. When they happen, how do you get the focus back?
Say on this though, Shaun, what is unusual here in talk of plots, that it is number 10 incontrovertibly briefed The Guardian, The Times and the BBC. That is highly unusual. So whereas people like you could say, oh, Westminster tittle-tattle, it isn't, because number 10 have confirmed there is talk of plots against the Prime Minister. Extraordinary.
Well, again, look, I'm not dismissing what you're saying for a second there, Andrew, because the facts, as they say, speak for themselves. But again, let's go back to your business as a journalist and mine on the other side of that as a politician. You have made a very distinguished career out of talking to sources. And your career is based on sources, including those in Downing Street. And I remember brilliant pieces that you have written and come to me about when I worked for John Major as his Director of Communications, and then when I worked for Tony Blair and across the floor of the House of Commons, and then indeed for Gordon Brown inside number 10. You and I would talk, and indeed I would be, as they say, a source inside number 10. So your sources as a journalist are nearly always, you and others, in number 10. So we've got to be a bit careful here of the distinction we're drawing. It's not that suddenly people are talking in number 10 who are not. Whether or not this week some people did some very ill-advised, badly engineered bits of briefing, we do need to discover. And I say we need to discover because the Prime Minister needs to have discipline inside number 10. So what you're pointing to, rightly, is there is a problem clearly of discipline inside number 10. It's not in the Prime Minister's interest to start, if somebody did do this, picking off one of the most talented people in government. And if, let's put aside the idea of being done in by colleagues, if, let's just say, some terrible accident befell the Prime Minister, by which I simply mean the obvious meaning of an accident, an illness or something, we did need a new Prime Minister, then somebody like Wes Streeting or Shabana Mahmood would be absolutely people that we would look to, incredibly first-class, coming people of their generation. But this is not the time for that, because this Prime Minister won an extraordinary mandate. Yes, there are problems internally in the Labour Party. I'm not dismissing those. Yes, there are problems in the economy. I'm not dismissing those. But the test for Keir Starmer as leader right now is getting a grip. And I think he will do, but it's a challenge.
But Shaun, you say the Prime Minister won an extraordinary mandate. He's certainly won an extraordinary majority thanks to the vagaries of our parliamentary system. But he came in with only a third of the vote, and that's amongst people who did vote, so more like a quarter of the actual votes of people who were eligible to vote. And what keeps people loyal, what keeps backbenchers loyal, is either a shared sense of common purpose, that they believe the government is on track, or the sense that if they hold their tongues, the government might win again. And neither of those conditions at the moment are true, and therefore backbenchers and advisers in number 10 think, what the heck? We're going to lose this election. What can we try that might shift the balance? How do you keep people loyal in those circumstances?
Well, a couple of things on the way to that. First of all, you said the vagaries of our system. He won under that system. There's the same vagaries that allowed Margaret Thatcher to win in 1997, Tony Blair.
Absolutely, but what I'm saying is the majority in Parliament does not match their majority in the country.
Forgive me. You started out by saying he won because of the vagaries in the system. He won because of the same vagaries that delivered other prime ministers. That hadn't changed.
Yeah.
At this point in an election cycle, all prime ministers are unpopular. And here we are in a relative conversation. Is it that he is more unpopular than you would normally be at about this point? Yes. The answer is all prime ministers are unpopular at this point. The question is, do you go on to recover because the country think that you've delivered? And if you think, for example, and I don't know if you can look back that far, but I suspect, Andrew, you and I both can, when you and I probably were very first voting, Mrs. Thatcher in 1980, 1981 looked like a dead certain for the dustbin. And there was no possibility of her going on to win a general election again in 1983. And that dramatically changed. So I think we would be unwise to forecast the outcome of the next general election based on this moment. What wouldn't be wise in number 10 is just to say, oh, because we are unpopular at the moment, we will recover. There is no inevitability to the recovery any more than there's an inevitability to losing that next general election. And for those of us like Andrew and myself who've been around for a long time, you have to observe that. Do I think, having said all of that, that the Prime Minister right now is in some significant area of challenge? My goodness, yes. And here's the really important thing about what you're saying. In order to remain Prime Minister in a parliamentary democracy, you have to remain confident of the fact that even if things are tough now, they've got to come right in the future. Because if they don't, in a parliamentary democracy, all those people behind you will actually, as an election gets within a year or 18 months, start to panic. Ask John Major. Ask what he saw in the middle of 1995 when people behind him started thinking, we're toast. So I would say the Prime Minister has, and this is not to be complacent about a single day between now and this moment, he's got about 18 months to really begin to demonstrate to the people behind him that what he's asking them as their leader to do is working. If he can do that, hold his nerve, continue the grip, and if people are being ill-disciplined and doing stupid briefing, they do need to go because they're not helping him. But equally, he's got to take this now on his shoulders and carry the burden of being an unpopular leader, because stability, in truth, is not stability right now in the Labour Party, it's stability for the country. And that's what he's got to deliver. And that's why, for me, far more important than these next couple of days,
Shaun Woodward, I'm so sorry, we are going to have to leave it there.
The budget is it.
Shaun, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Shaun Woodward.
Very good to talk to you. Shaun Woodward, he was, of course, a famous cross the floor from the Tory party to the Labour Party and ended up in Gordon Brown's cabinet as Northern Ireland Secretary. He was one of Gordon Brown's most trusted cabinet ministers because he was one of the few who didn't brief against him. And I know that because they used to brief.
In that case, he is well qualified to give advice.
He certainly is. He certainly is. Now, still ahead, our economy is not growing at all, and we've got a budget in 2 weeks which is going to make it even worse because we've got tax rises coming up.
And up next, our Home and Security editor Mark White has some exclusive small boats footage. It may make your blood boil. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Claudia will continue to affect parts of Iberia as we go through tomorrow. It's continuing to bring heavy rain, thunder, large hail across parts of the Canary Islands, Portugal and particularly western parts of Spain, but it is pushing its way further east. Meanwhile, actually across many central and eastern parts of the Mediterranean, staying largely fine, some decent sunshine on offer and temperatures about what you'd expect for the time of year. Staying pretty unsettled for many across Spain as we go into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breast cancer is the most common cancer in the UK, and over a lifetime, 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer. It's mostly affecting women over 50. As you mentioned before, it does affect a small proportion of men, less than 1%, but still there is a potential risk. The good news is, if caught early, survival is excellent due to improved treatments and new drugs. So 99% of women and men survive for more than 5 years if caught early. And overall, the breast cancer survival rate is about 85%, which is fantastic. It's important to know that you have to check. Women have to learn to check their breasts. So if you notice anything different, dimpling, change in shape, a lump, go and get it checked out. Even though survival rates are much improved, we do have less survival here compared to other countries. So, for example, in America, 90% of women will survive over 10 years if they're with breast cancer. So it is important to get checked out just as soon as you notice any changes whatsoever.
Why is there that difference, Lucy, between, say, us and America, for example?
Well, the UK lags behind generally in cancer survival, 10 to 25 years, they estimate, over a range of cancers. That includes prostate, ovarian, lung, breast and bowel cancer. And there could be a number of reasons, but I think part of the problem, the NHS is great when you get to the front of the queue, isn't it? But it's actually getting there.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
We've got our Home and Security editor, Mark White, to tear us all up. You've got this extraordinary footage of migrants in France. Tell us more.
Yeah, this shows actually how people smugglers and migrants are operating with near impunity across France. The first images we want to show you are of migrants wandering around in Calais, in Dunkirk, in Gravelines, where one of the main launch beaches is. Now look at this. They're queuing just for, and we've spoken before about the free bus services that migrants can get that takes them to and from the beaches that they launch from. They've got their orange, very distinctive orange life jackets, some wearing them, some carrying them, completely unchallenged by the police. The images that we shot, there was no police making any effort. And this is them just walking through the main towns this is Gravelines, basically, as I say, near that launch beach. It's a very, very popular launch site.
All young men, Mark. All young men.
All young men.
In their 20s and 30s.
We spoke to a senior maritime source who said, look at them again. This is Calais this time. Who said the very least the police should be doing...
Hundreds of them.
The very least the police should be doing is stopping them, confiscating those life jackets, because they are an enabler of the journeys across the English Channel. And listen, it's not just the fact that police are not intervening and taking these life jackets. There is almost nightly disorder and serious criminality in these towns as well. Take a look at this. This is in the town of Gravelines again. Yeah, this, again, it's near nightly, the disorder and the criminality. This was a group of migrants who failed to launch their boat from the nearby beach. They've gone on the rampage in the town. There are French police trying to contain them and to make arrests. But can you imagine just how terrifying this is for those residents filming this outside their bedroom window as they're going along? They're chanting. You can quite hear it audibly there, chanting Allahu Akbar. As they're going around, they're smashing cars. They're defacing buildings itself, beach huts down there. They're stealing bicycles.
These young men are all victims of terror. and conflict, which is why they fled to France. And modern slavery.
And another thing, we hear from Sir Keir Starmer all the time about how they're smashing the gangs, but we've been seeing for some time just how robust the supply lines are and how they can get their boats from another supplier. Look at these images now that have just come to us from Turkey. Boat complete with its Go Faster red stripes down the side there. A different sort of type of boat, the same sort of dimensions, but that shows you that they can get them from different suppliers. And that boat there, we can show you the next piece of video is from the beach at Gravelines. This is from the beach at Gravelines, and it shows... Right, OK, sorry, we don't have that.
OK, well, we'll hopefully show that.
We'll get you back on.
Absolutely extraordinary, Mark. Imagine.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Well, we've got loads left on the programme, but first of all, your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Through today there'll be a bit of a three-way split when it comes to our weather. Cold in the north with a few wintry showers, very mild with a lot of fine weather across southern parts. In between, however, it's a much wetter story. Some persistent and quite heavy rain across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England through this morning. The rain breaking up and easing a little bit as we head into the afternoon. Across Scotland, like I say, there will be some showers around, could be falling as sleet or snow, but also some sunny spells. A chilly feel here though, temperatures struggling. Meanwhile, across central and southern England, well, lots of fine sunny weather to be had and temperatures well above average for the time of year, feeling, well, relatively warm in the sunshine for some. As we go into the evening, sticking with the chilly feel across parts of Scotland, a bit of frost developing quite quickly as we go overnight, and also a few more showers, some still falling as sleet or snow. Across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England, staying pretty cloudy. There will be a few outbreaks of rain at times as well, not as heavier as they will have been during the daytime. And then further south, well, central parts of England and Wales ending the day largely fine, but rain persistent and heavy pushing into some southern counties and then feeding further northwards as we go overnight. Now, it is going to be quite heavy. We could see some rainfall totals building up for some places, but across the northern half of the UK, staying drier with some clearer skies across parts of Scotland, so temperatures dropping even further. Could get as low as -4, -5 Celsius in some places, much milder where we have the cloud and rain further south. That rain's going to continue then for many places across England and Wales as we go through tomorrow. It could be quite heavy, particularly across the hills and mountains towards the south of Wales. High rainfall totals, perhaps up to 100 millimetres, could cause some impacts, particularly around some east-facing slopes. Further north, staying bright and fine, just a few showers to watch out for. Chilly here, much milder towards the south, but unpleasant in the wind and rain.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for our more than 2 million YouTube subscribers and more than 2 billion views. That is Britain watching, sharing and making its voice heard louder than ever before.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Drivers on the A82 in Milton should exercise caution due to flooding. In West Berkshire, on the A34 northbound, there's a road traffic collision closing one lane. Heading to Barnsley, the M1 southbound entry slip road at junction 37 is shut due to an incident. In Devon, drivers face delays on the M5 northbound exit slip at junction 28 due to a vehicle fire with lane closures. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services face disruption between Lockerbie and Oxenholme Lake District, with delays between Milton Keynes Central and Rugby. Taxis replace trains between Exeter, St David's and Barnstaple. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas to you this year. There's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 the best year yet. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News goodie bag. And we'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock on Thursday, the 13th of November. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
The Downing Street debate continues. It's civil war, frankly. Cabinet Minister demanding the Prime Minister sacks his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, as the fury grows over the briefings against the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting.
Most unwarranted attack on a faithful since Joe Marler was banished in the Traitors final, and I think whoever's been briefing this should spend a little less time watching Celebrity Traitors and a bit more time watching Country File.
And more border disorder. Shocking new footage shows people smugglers and migrants brazenly operating in French coastal towns before jumping on small boats to the UK.
Is the President prepared to bankrupt the BBC?
The President has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidised by British taxpayers.
The US Press Secretary Caroline Levitt tells GB News' Bev Turner that the lawsuit against the BBC is going ahead, and the Beeb has until tomorrow to remove their doctored panorama clip of Donald Trump. So will they do it?
And online grooming spikes. There's been an almost doubling of online grooming crimes in the past 8 years. Even a 4-year-old boy was among the victims. Meanwhile, in Scotland...
What I want to see happen is changes made. That is all I want. I just want to see this never happen to anyone else again. And that is all I want.
Grooming victim Taylor spoke to us last week about her ordeal in Glasgow, and this week she has written to the First Minister, John Swinney, urging an inquiry, saying that nothing has been done and children in Scotland are still at risk.
And an independent review says the ISIS bride Shamima Begum, who's in a detention camp in Syria, should be returned to Britain to prevent human rights violations. We're asking, should she stay there?
Or chat eye to eye. It comes down, goes under a table, leaves less adoptions in the home, but also takes you outside. We've got 4-wheel drive and more torque than a 2-litre diesel engine.
And up next, we'll be joined by the inspirational former Royal Marine Commando, Phil Eaglesham, who contracted Q fever in Afghanistan and has now invented a wheelchair that allows him to talk eye to eye with people. Don't miss it. Andrew, the footage that Mark White showed us before the break was just astonishing. Yeah. And we've had, obviously, protests in this country from people who don't want to live near hotels housing migrants. But imagine living in Calais, where they're seeing that kind of disorder and violence and lawlessness every single night. Why aren't the French government doing anything about it, even if it's just for the sake of their own residents?
Well, that's why they're allowing them to cross the channel, because they want shot of them, because they're louts.
It's just
It's
extraordinary.
appalling. It is
You
appalling.
can't believe, watching that footage, that this is a European, rule of law, safe country where people go on holiday all the time. It's just extraordinary.
As ever, we'd like to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/yoursay. But first, here is the news with Sophia Hill.
Miriam, thank you. Very good morning. It's just gone 10 o'clock. These are your top stories. Sir Keir Starmer faces mounting pressure to sack his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, as Labour's internal row deepens over anonymous briefings against Wes Streeting. The Prime Minister has apologised to the Health Secretary for the, quote, juvenile claims he was plotting a coup and ordered an inquiry to find the source of the attacks. Sir Keir says that he's determined to drive out a toxic culture inside Downing Street, insisting that any attack on any member of my cabinet is completely unacceptable. A little bit of good news now for the economy. Growth has just stayed in the positive territory. UK GDP rose by 0.1% over the past 3 months, despite a cyber attack at Jaguar Land Rover, hitting manufacturing in September. The modest increase shows that the economy is still edging forward ahead of the Chancellor's autumn budget, where Rachel Reeves says that she'll focus on building an economy that works for working people. GB News spoke to Shadow Chancellor Sir Mel Stride about the news earlier.
0.1% growth over the last quarter is considerably less than the 0.3% in the quarter before. So what we're seeing is an economy that is slowing down overall, not growing. And in fact, in September, the last month of that quarter, the economy actually contracted. So we actually went backwards. And I think these are further worrying signs that the policies that this government is pursuing, particularly high taxes on businesses, borrowing lots of money, spending lots of money, stoking inflation.
Now, GB News can reveal that people smugglers and migrants are operating with near impunity in northern France. Exclusive footage shows that groups of migrants wearing life jackets and wandering through coastal towns unchallenged by the police. Residents say that they feel unsafe, describing rising levels of violence and criminality as smuggling operations continue almost in plain sight along the Channel coast. The White House has branded the BBC a leftist propaganda machine as its legal battle with the broadcaster escalates. President Trump has given the BBC until Friday to retract parts of a Panorama documentary which he claims, quote, dishonestly edited one of his speeches. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer says he supports a strong, independent BBC, but warns that it must get its house in order. The President's press secretary, Caroline Levitt, says that the ball is in the BBC's court, as reports suggest that the corporation is considering an apology to avert a $1 billion lawsuit.
The president has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidized by British taxpayers, and he thinks that's extremely unfortunate for the great people of the United Kingdom and Great Britain. As you know, the president's external legal counsel has filed a lawsuit against the BBC. We expect that to continue, and whether they apologize or not is up to them.
Elsewhere, the UK's first small modular nuclear reactor will be built in Wales, in Anglesey, backed by £2.5 billion of government investment. The project, run by Great British Energy Nuclear, is part of a plan to boost clean energy and national security. The Prime Minister has used the announcement to urge John Swinney to end Scotland's ban on nuclear power, accusing the SNP of, quote, bottling it and costing jobs. Vaping is compromising children's human rights. That's the warning from leading academics calling for tougher regulation of e-cigarettes. Researchers say that nicotine addiction is keeping some pupils out of lessons and affecting their ability to concentrate. Published in the British Medical Journal, the study warns that teenagers are particularly vulnerable to nicotine exposure, which can have a long-term effects on memory, mood, and their attention. And the Princess of Wales will host her annual Christmas Carol service at Westminster Abbey for a 5th year running on Friday, the 5th of December. The power of love and togetherness are to be the focus of this year's service, as the Princess wants to recognise and thank people around the country who are acting with love in their communities, contributing to a more cohesive and connected society. Among the stars joining the Abbey's world-famous choir will be Hannah Waddingham, Kate Winslet and Bastille's Dan Smith, performing some of the nation's most loved Christmas carols. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in just under half an hour.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, we've got some breaking news. Do you remember 10-year-old Sara Sharif, who was murdered by her father and stepmother? Well, she was failed by the safeguarding system throughout her short life. A review identified a series of missed opportunities. We'll bring you more on that later in the show.
Well, we're now joined by the former Royal Marine Commando, Phil Eaglesham. He was left with chronic disabilities after he contracted Q fever during his third tour of Afghanistan in 2010. Well, Phil's designed his own innovative all-terrain elevating wheelchair called Victor, which has since been recognised for reducing social stigma and empowering disabled users.
Well, Phil joins us in the studio now. Phil, here you are in your chair. Tell us what you did and why you needed to do it.
Well, actually, it's called Omni, and Omni is translated to all, and obviously for Omni wheels. But I spent 12 and a half years in a powered wheelchair, and really, when I went into a powered wheelchair, mentally, I didn't want to go out. I sat in a seat for 6 months, and I didn't want to be alive because they were very limiting. You need to have 2 or 3 chairs to do different jobs. So I set about a sort of task of designing something that would make me feel like that former Royal Marine again, and get me out and about and do everything that I wanted to do. Having 24-hour care becomes quite mentally draining when you're having to ask people to do stuff. So I wanted to design something that I could be as independent as possible and possibly help others.
So what are the key differences in this wheelchair compared to a standard wheelchair that people will be familiar with?
Well, this is a sort of an all-encompassing chair. So normally you'd buy a chair and it might do indoors and take you to the shops, and then you have to have another one to go up and do some four-wheel drive or up into the hills.
I don't think people realise that, actually, Phil.
No.
I think most people probably thought it was one wheelchair which did the lot.
Yeah, you kind of have to buy 2 or 3 to do a lot of different jobs. But it all depends on what you want to do too. For me, I want to be able to do everything and then have the limitations be my own rather than the chair limit me.
Yeah.
So I'm used to seeing my friends who are amputees and all going doing these amazing things, and in my wheelchairs I wasn't able to do that. So I wanted to design something that will do everything, will allow me to be independent at my home, so I didn't have to necessarily have a disabled kitchen. I can reach the top shelf of a cupboard and my wife can't, so it empowers me. If you're walking down the street or rolling down the street with my wife, I can hold her hand from height rather than feeling like a child holding my arm up. And living life at this height isn't very pleasant. It feels like you're in a pram and you're in the street and people don't see you. So we designed our own patented lifting mechanism, and it's not innovative to have a lift mechanism. They have had scissor lift sort of mechanisms in the past, but they aren't really fit for purpose. So we designed this one, which is really sturdy. You can drive around at height at 4 miles per hour, down low at 8 miles per hour, and it's road legal. So.
And when you say we, who did you design it with, Phil?
So the Royal Marines charity helped me start the business.
Right.
So really, the only reason I'm here today is because charities have supported me, and that's the British public. People who've put £1 in a jar have helped save my life, and part of this is paying that forward. We are a premium product, but we're a product where I want people to buy once and then refurbish their product rather than having to continually buy chairs every 5 or 10 years.
So where would they buy this chair? How would somebody get it?
Yeah, so we're selling personally, and we're only making 30 of these this year.
Right.
And that's because I want to make sure the service and the support is correct. I'm used to having my chairs break and I could be without a chair for 2 months. So then I'm sat in a sofa and have lost that independence. So we want to make sure in the first year that we're servicing the community correctly and that we can repair your chair if it breaks, which I hope it doesn't, and I believe it won't, within 72 hours and get you a replacement if you need one. So it's all about the user.
Now, I'm sure you knew we were going to ask you this, but can you demonstrate those amazing features?
Also, why was eye-to-eye contact so important?
People are so PC these days that we don't know whether to stand up or sit down to talk to someone. So instead of doing that, we avoid the conversation with the disabled person.
Yes.
So, and the choice isn't the user's. So for us to be able to choose whether we go up or down then makes a difference. It gives a choice to the user.
Incredible.
But
really
also,
is extraordinary.
Yeah, it opens up those conversations. When I'm driving down the street, then and on the footpath, people are always on their phones and they don't see you down low.
No.
So up here, people it was like a slalom course, really, going around in and out. Whereas up here, people actually move out of my way and more people are talking.
And is this the only wheelchair that of its kind that does this?
This is of this kind that has all these innovative features: 4-wheel drive and more torque than a 2-litre diesel engine, and driving at height and road legal. But there is sort of scissor lift mechanisms that have been out in the past, but they don't generally go at speed, and don't feel that safe. Whereas this is, I mean, you're not.
Yeah, the centre of gravity is low enough that. What do you've got 3 boys, haven't you? You're a dad.
Yeah.
What do your kids think of this?
Well, it's great. So I was able to help teach one of my kids to ride their bicycle, because I can drive alongside him. I can go 4 miles per hour at this height and do those dad things that I couldn't do from a chair that doesn't go at speed or doesn't do the height.
Without this chair, how difficult would your life have been?
I didn't want to be here, and that's quite frankly, mental health-wise, that was really, really difficult. I didn't really go out of the house, because your house becomes your most independent place, so you set it up to be as independent as possible. As soon as you leave the door, you start looking for problems, whether it's a stone that's going to hit a caster wheel, or it's a curb, or someone who's parked in front of a drop curb, and the door's not wide enough, and you look at all these problems, or you go to a shop, and you're hit by all the clothes in the face as you're trying to drive down the aisle. So being up at this height, everything's set up for people to walk. So we tried to design a chair that adapts to the world we live in today, rather than waiting for the world to adapt to us.
And we've just had Remembrance Sunday and Armistice Day. We've been thinking so much about what veterans have done for this country. Do you think we look after veterans well enough in Britain? You've mentioned, obviously, the charity and the Royal Marines helping you, but are other veterans as fortunate as you are in terms of the help they've received, or is there a long way to go?
It's probably a mixed bag. I can only talk on my experience, and I can't thank them enough. The Royal Marines charity have been so supportive of me over the years, and I really wouldn't be here without them. But that's the public supporting the charities, and without that we wouldn't have it. And they continue to support. So, as I say, it's about having that support and then paying that forward so the next people.
Is that badge, is that associated with your charity?
So this is a poppy with the Royal Marines crest on it.
Right, I thought so, yeah. And Paralympics?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
It was an experience. So I'd done Rio and Tokyo.
Right.
In fact, in Rio was the first time I could see sort of the excitement and stuff in the children's face.
Yeah.
And one of my favourite pictures is afterwards, because you could see the excitement and how proud they were.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't feel of any way that I could make them proud and show them that in adversity you can go on and do things. So that was really about...
Wow.
So they were proud of their dad?
Yeah, and trying to show them that no matter what happens, then you can go on and do sort of amazing things.
What event did you do in the Paralympics?
Target shooting.
Very good.
Yeah.
How did you get on?
Not very well.
Oh, well, but you got there and you did it twice.
We were there.
Yeah. And were you or were they watching on TV?
We can see a picture now.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, so that was in Tokyo, where there was no sort of support out, but I had a bit of a mental sort of hard time at that stage where we were pulling out of Afghanistan. So
right.
But at the same time, I took this chair over there, and that opened up my life. I didn't need as much care.
And you're turning this into a business, so who knows where it could go in the future? Because the wheelchair is not just for veterans, but for anybody who has a particular need or disability that requires this chair.
Yeah, hopefully we can help some people, and then it's paying that forward.
Yeah.
What would it cost to buy it?
So everything all in is 35,000.
Right.
And with that, as I say, we don't want you to ever buy twice. We want you to refurb the batteries in 5 or 10 years and continue to use it.
Right. And is that going to be a full-time job for you now, Phil, or what else are you planning?
Well, we're raising finance now. We have an investment pack out to raise $1.5 million to put this into proper production and scale the business. And then I would like to do that alongside getting back to shooting. I have sort of dreams of getting back out there and seeing what challenges are out and about.
Are you going to do the Paralympics again?
Not at the minute, because I've got sort of new medication that allows me to walk temporarily. So I use the chair on and off at the minute, but that's short-lived. And I'll be permanently back in a chair in later years. But I'd like to sort of try the able-bodied side. And I
can imagine there's people watching and listening now, Phil, who think, how do I get one of these chairs? How do they do that?
Yeah, so you just go to our website, www.conqueringhorizons.com, or catch us on social media in Conquering Horizons, and I take all the phone calls, so I'm more than happy to talk to anyone who wants to chat or who I can help.
Yeah.
Well, I think it'll fly because there's so many wheelchair users who must have had the same experience, particularly about the eye contact and walking along the street. I think people will so identify with that.
And I think
if you only have to buy one
if you pardon
for
the
life.
it's an eye-opener for us because I'd never thought about the things
me
you were
neither.
saying.
And not in
about-
clothes shops.
Yeah.
The rails being at eye height.
Exactly.
Never thought about that.
I'd never thought about that because we don't.
No, we don't, unless you're in that
point.
situation.
Yeah.
You don't really know. The only problem is in this country, we don't fund wheelchairs enough for disability.
So what would you, if your only option was NHS and you can't walk, what is your options when it comes to wheelchairs?
They go to charities or try and raise funds or go to Motability. The grants aren't that big to be able to buy devices, so it's trying to push the government to make a change and put money there that's available to people, which will get them back out into the workplace.
Yeah. Of course, in America, they have an entire ministry devoted to veterans.
Yes.
We have a veterans... Do we have a veterans minister?
We do have a veterans minister, I think.
Al...
Don't ask
Al
me
Plant,
that.
yeah. He was in the military, actually.
He was in the Marines,
So we're going to sit down. We're going to get you to demonstrate it again, Phil. Here we go.
It's quite quiet as well.
Yeah. So with this chair, you can drive while it's going up and down. So
when it worked the first time, was it really exciting?
It was. Yeah. It's very different because we've got Omni wheels and stuff. It turns like a tank too on the spot.
And you just plug it into the mains. How long does it take to charge?
It'll charge overnight, but because it does over 30 miles to a battery charge, then you've no battery anxiety because normally they're under 20 miles
Oh, I
or
see.
the extended one's 22.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to do a marathon.
Yeah.
If you hit a pothole, because we've got a lot of them, would that be a problem?
No, this has got enough power and torque to get you over it.
I mean, they're as big as a car wheel, aren't they? The front wheel. So
so they're
same
20-inch
diameter.
wheels to be able to climb the curb, but we've crash tested this 3 times and still drove it away afterwards.
Did you personally crash
No,
it?
so part of the testing, it goes on a system which drives at 30 miles per hour.
30 miles an hour?
As if it was set in a car, and then crashes head on.
I get you. And what is the top speed on it?
8 miles per hour.
8 miles an hour.
That's the road legal limit.
But 4 when you're extended, because
4 at
it's a
height,
little bit more dangerous.
8 miles an hour is pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, everything in disability is slow.
Yeah.
And to have that little bit of speed.
Yeah.
Our rules and legislation around disability is quite stringent.
Okay.
So you need a minimum of 3 wheels and things like that. So
And is that why you have indicators?
Yep.
So that you can drive it on the road?
Yeah, it's road legal. You get a V5C.
Yeah.
We've indicators, lights, hazards.
Yeah.
Horns.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Well, we really wish you all the best. and I hope the business
yeah.
absolutely takes off. I'm sure it will, because the need is so innovative and,
So again,
well done.
they've looked for Conquering Horizons.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where they'll find you.
Yep.
And you get to talk to them.
Yeah.
Which is another bonus, because you're a complete charmer.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
Phil, thank you so much.
And your family must be over
Yeah.
the moon, aren't they?
I can't speak for them, but hopefully.
We'll have them on next time.
I think your wife will be pretty proud of you. And your kids are very proud of their dad. How nice is that?
Oh, amazing. Thank you.
Well, that's Phil Eaglesham. Conquering Horizons,
Yeah.
if you want to find out more.
And check it out.
£35,000?
Yeah.
There we are.
I mean, it's cheaper than a car.
Much cheaper.
It's a brand new electric car, isn't it?
Very good. All right, now it's time for the Great British Giveaway now. If you're starting to feel festive, we can tell you how you can get £40,000 of cash to spend on your Christmas. Stay tuned.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts, the tree, the trimmings, everything you might need for a fantastic festive day. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The University of Sheffield has raised a few eyebrows after slapping death and violence triggers on, you know what's coming, the Bible. Christians and historians have dubbed the warnings as misguided and absurd and incompatible with discussions about morality. Joining me now is co-host of the Catholic Unscripted podcast, Mark Lambert. Mark, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. Mark, I mean, I can see from the smile on your face already what you make of this story, but just articulate for me your feelings about it.
I think it's typical of the culture that wants to sexualise our children and have drag queens and all this kind of stuff. And they want to censor the Bible, you know, they want to censor the book that built our civilization. It's just so vacuous in academic terms that this is the way that they want to move forward. And it's kind of redolent of that post-Enlightenment ideology that says that we need to tear down the things that have worked for hundreds of years. You know, we've stood on the shoulders of those who've gone before us, built on these principles. But in reality, it stifles critical thinking, any deep textual engagement. And instead of equipping students to grapple with complex narratives that reflect the human condition, like sin, sacrifice, salvation, these warnings promote intellectual avoidance, reducing profound theological events like Christ's crucifixion to just triggers for graphic bodily injury or sexual violence. This isn't education, Dawn. It's a superficial evasion that undermines the very purpose of academia.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. It's 10:25. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
I've got to say, I thought, Karen Malone's here and Jonathan Lister's here, back after his trip to Australia. Wasn't that guy inspirational?
You know what is incredible? Because I've often thought this about people in chairs, that you're talking to them and you're literally looking down on them.
Absolutely, the whole point.
And that must feel to them quite degrading,
yes.
I would feel. People who, because they can't, they're not, you need to look in someone's eyes when you're talking to them. And it was clear there from that chair, he could do exactly that with you guys.
And the point you said when you go to a close-up and all the clothes batter you in the face because you're so low down.
And people are going to get people's elbows and arms and bags in your face.
It's transformed his life.
It's fantastic.
But it makes you wonder why no one has thought of that before, because when you think about it, it seems quite an obvious thing to have done. So how could no one come up with it?
It needed somebody who's been in a wheelchair to do it, because he or she knows how. Well, he said his life was completely different before.
He is going to get very rich because
I hope so.
I hope so.
Yeah. Now, Jonathan, you're rather fond of the Labour Party. They're having a civil war, my dear. They are engaged in a full-blown civil war.
Yeah.
So all the years I've been doing my job, I do not recall Number 10 briefing quite so overtly and in such a hostile way against one of their own.
And the thing that's so strange about it, Andrew, is that Morgan McSweeney, who is the right-hand man of Keir Starmer, and according to some allies of McSweeney, is the one running the show. He and others have joked. I'm not sure if he's joked about it, but Number 10, some people have briefed that Keir Starmer thinks he's driving the car, but really they put him at the helm of a driverless Docklands-like railway train, which is a bit mean. I'm not sure if that's true, but that's kind of the briefing that comes out of it. So McSweeney is meant to be a close ally of Streeting.
Yeah.
And the rumours are the whole point of this operation was to put Starmer in as leader of the opposition, not expecting that he would win, and then he would sort of pave the way for Streeting to take over after the Tories won the next election by a smaller majority. But obviously that didn't take account of the fact that the Tories then completely combusted.
Yeah.
And Labour won by a landslide, and so Starmer's the man that McSweeney's got. But none of this really makes sense in another way, because why would McSweeney have done that to try to sort of sabotage Streeting? And I suppose the upshot of all this is that Streeting has become a lot stronger.
Yes.
Yeah. Whether that was the intention of number 10, I suspect it wasn't, but there are some people who say that it was, actually, with the 5D chess that people say they play.
Don't you think, John, that he's going to become less stronger when he finally does run for Prime Minister? Because he's saying now that he has absolutely no intention of doing that, and that he's one of the faithful, and he's going to, but he is going to stand.
So it makes him look incredibly slippery, and he does it, right?
It makes him look like a slippery character, which I think he absolutely is a slippery character. But I think what this shows is the complete dysfunction that exists in Downing Street. Because it is such a stupid move. You know, it's so stupid. It was always going to backfire. Did they think Streeting was going to take that line down? Of course not. But you know, and what's going to be even more sickening this week, I think, is to watch all the runners and riders, you know, Mahmood and Miliband. They're all going to come out this week with interviews, and they're going to be more in sorrow than in anger interviews, and they're going to be talking about how terrible this war is, and they're going to try and make themselves look like proper candidates to go into the running. And of course, none of them are. It's interesting. I just don't, you know, you look at. I want Starmer to go because I think he's hopeless, and I think that, you know, 1 in 2 people in this country want him to go. The latest poll says, but there is no obvious person to take his place.
With Streeting, of course, the problem he has a majority of 528.
He would need to
do... almost certainly lose that seat next time.
He would need to do a chicken run, which is when...
He's denied he'll do it. So then if he does do it, he looks again like...
more slippery.
I think the key problem is that he's said now that he won't challenge Starmer, so he would have to wait for someone else to do it.
He has to wait for Starmer to resign.
The question is, does Starmer want to resign? Look, I think that the problem is that we have, and this is what happened in the last days, the Conservative government, which obviously you remember.
I'm getting deja vu.
Right, so the problem is that obviously it's great for people like us who love political intrigue and gossip and all that stuff, but it goes down like a bucket of sick with people at home who see their lives are not getting better.
I just wonder if actually politics has always been like this. It's always been about manoeuvring and relationships and intrigue. But it didn't used to be lived in a 24/7 media world.
Yeah, exactly.
Where everybody can contact anyone on WhatsApp at any time, including journalists, where there are frequent interviews and self-published videos throughout the day, and you get this kind of Big Brother running commentary on what's happening rather than just hearing about the big event.
Do you think the difference is with the Labour, certainly as opposed to the Tories, the rules are very different for both parties. You can't just get rid of a leader. So for Labour, there has to be a formal challenge from one person, a face-to-face formal challenge. A person that has been okayed by the party.
And has 20% of MPs.
Which is a lot.
Yeah. Now, what person is going to stick their head up the parapet and do that? Because these two challenges were mounted against Kinnock in 88 and against Corbyn in, I've forgotten the... Anyway,
2016.
both of them failed miserably.
It would be a Thatcher faced a stalking horse challenger back in 89 from a man called Sir Anthony Mayer, who was a backbencher, an eccentric. But he got about 10 votes, but a substantial number of abstentions. So that was the beginning.
Well, once you have the crack in the ceiling. And what I was going to say to you, Miriam, is that you have always had intrigue in politics, but then you sometimes have had incredibly strong, charismatic leaders, such as Thatcher, such as Blair, who no one would have thought about challenging for the first of 7 or 8 years of their premiership. But when you have a man like Starmer, who came to his position on the back of a series of pledges to the left-wing contingent in the Labour Party, and then backtracked on all of them. So the first thing he did was sacrifice the trust of the Labour Party, and there was an argument that he had to do that in order to win the trust of the electorate. But then he's gone back on pledges to them as well, and that's the problem.
Had he achieved anything at all in the last 15 months, the party would have backed him. All the things that he promised he was going to do, you know, he's going to reform welfare, he was going to stop the boats, he was going to take back control of the borders.
Change the planning system.
All of that. If he
has done that.
Half of those things, he would have actually been in a much stronger position. But the problem is he's done absolutely absolutely nothing. Everything he has touched has turned to you-know-what.
And he now looks weaker.
And he looks weaker.
At the end of the week, he's weaker than he was at the start of the week,
But
and that's incredible.
I think the problem as well, I think he is so lacking in political instinct that I think he still thinks he can turn this around. And that's why he's not going.
But, you know, he did do that. Do you remember 2021 Hartlepool by-election, when everyone said he had to go? And I'm not sort of bigging myself up here, but I wrote a couple of articles at the time saying, just give... There are signs that Labour... Don't write Labour off just yet. And we don't know what happens in politics. You know, as well as all of us, that politics is a uniquely volatile and feeble at the moment.
Because the Conservative Party imploded.
I'm not saying it's likely, Andrew. I'm saying we don't know what's going to happen.
Then we had Liz Truss. Then we had.
I don't think he'll last till the election.
Nor do I.
But you know,
there are some people now saying he won't last to Christmas.
He'll last till Christmas.
Others are saying he'll get beyond. Well, it depends what the reaction to the budget is. The reaction to the budget
appalling.
And it'll be catastrophic. If it's that bad, he may have to go before Christmas.
I think the Chancellor would go.
May elections.
And I think May elections is the real critical test for him. And I've been talking to a lot of people, maybe in the cabinet, and it is hard to find a cabinet minister who really genuinely thinks Keir Starmer will lead the Labour Party into the next election.
And when you see this...
And don't think he should either.
No, and when you see this kind of feeding frenzy around a government, you know it's over. And the thing with Starmer is he should look at that and think about the good of the country now, because he's going to go in the next 6 months, whatever.
Right, well, he
should just shut up.
But this is the thing, like, as someone, I come from this, not from a position of loving Starmer. I think he's a decent man, personally. But I want a Labour government to succeed, because I want a centre-left government, and I think the alternative is terrifying. And so I'm just thinking, is it better to sort of lance the boil, as it were, and get rid of him and give someone else a chance, or does that turn the public off and make it look like all politicians are saying they're only out for themselves?
I think this too. I don't think Wes Streeting will replace him. I think the Labour Party think they have to have a woman, so it could be Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, or Angela Rayner.
It's not going to be Rayner, is it? She's too weak now.
She's on manoeuvres.
I've done a couple of shows this week where people who live in, on council estates, ordinary working people, they like Rayner because they say, we can relate to her.
That's right.
This is a woman who's done very well, who started with nothing. She's done incredibly well. We relate to her. That terrifies me, because they don't know all the other stuff about her. They're not taking note of the stuff we know. So that, to me, is terrifying. But if she gets in, Labour are definitely...
They do know this stuff. I mean, it's been all over the news, Carol.
Well, we will have to resume this in an hour, although whoever is leader has to deal with 405 backbenchers who probably don't want to pass any legislation that would say...
And 240 of them are newbies. Newbies who have no loyalty to Keir Starmer. None whatsoever.
But we'll pause there for our 60-second news update with Sophia Hill.
Miriam, thank you. Very good morning. These are the top stories just after 10:30. So Keir Starmer says he'll investigate briefings that unleashed a leadership row as he faces pressure to overhaul his toxic Downing Street operation and sack Chief of Staff Morgan McSweeney. A little bit of good news for the economy. Growth has stayed just in the positive territory. UK GDP rose by 0.1% over the past 3 months, despite a cyber attack at Jaguar Land Rover hitting manufacturing in September. GB News can reveal that people smugglers and migrants are operating with near impunity in northern France. The exclusive footage shows groups of migrants wearing life jackets and wandering through coastal towns unchallenged by the police. The UK's first small modular nuclear reactor will be built in Wales, backed by £2.5 billion of government investment. And the Princess of Wales will host her annual Christmas Carol concert at Westminster Abbey for a 5th year running. The power of love and togetherness are to be the focus of this year's service. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Well, coming up next, 10-year-old Sara Sharif, who was murdered by her father and stepmother, was failed by the safeguarding system. We'll bring you the findings of a new review into her death. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Through today there'll be a bit of a three-way split when it comes to our weather. Cold in the north with a few wintry showers, very mild with a lot of fine weather across southern parts. In between, however, it's a much wetter story. Some persistent and quite heavy rain across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England through this morning. The rain breaking up and easing a little bit as we head into the afternoon. Across Scotland, like I said, there will be some showers around, could be falling as sleet or snow, but also some sunny spells. A chilly feel here though, temperatures struggling. Meanwhile, across central and southern England, well, lots of fine sunny weather to be had and temperatures well above average for the time of year, feeling, well, relatively warm in the sunshine for some. As we go into the evening, sticking with the chilly feel across parts of Scotland, a bit of frost developing quite quickly as we go overnight, and also a few more showers, some still falling as sleet or snow. Across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England, staying pretty cloudy. There will be a few outbreaks of rain at times as well, not as heavier as they will have been during the daytime. And then further south, well, central parts of England and Wales ending the day largely fine, but rain persistent and heavy pushing into some southern counties and then feeding further northwards as we go overnight. Now, it is going to be quite heavy. We could see some rainfall totals building up for some places, but across the northern half of the UK, staying drier with some clearer skies across parts of Scotland, so temperatures dropping even further. Could get as low as -4, -5 Celsius in some places, much milder where we have the cloud and rain further south. That rain's going to continue then for many places across England and Wales as we go through tomorrow. It could be quite heavy, particularly across the hills and mountains towards the south of Wales. High rainfall totals, perhaps up to 100 millimetres, could cause some impacts, particularly around some east-facing slopes. Further north, staying bright and fine, just a few showers to watch out for. Chilly here, much milder towards the south, but unpleasant in the wind and rain.
Thank you, Britain, for sharing over 5 million comments on your say, because when you talk, we listen.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M74 northbound between junction 15 and 14 has a lane blocked due to a road traffic incident. The M48 has a 7.5-tonne weight restriction for heavy goods vehicles until further notice. In Barnsley, the M1 southbound entry slip at junction 37 is closed as a vehicle has left the carriageway. Congestion on the A34 northbound between the M4 and A4185 in West Berkshire causes 30-minute delays. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services are disrupted between Lockerbie and Oxenholme Lake District, with delays between Milton Keynes Central and Rugby. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. It's 21 minutes to 11.
10-year-old Sara Sharif, who was murdered by her father and stepmother, was failed by the safeguarding system throughout her short life. A review identified a series of missed opportunities to help her.
Well, joining us now is the CEO of Freedom Abuse, Marilyn Hawes. Marilyn, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. One of the things that's come out in this review is that council staff tried to visit Sara Sharif the day before she was murdered to check up on her, but went to the wrong address. That's an extraordinary finding.
The trouble is, they can go to a house and not necessarily be accepted in. That's the point. They can't just kick a door in, and that is absolutely insane. But even if they did go to the wrong address, which was complete and utter incompetence, there were plenty of other opportunities. And for the whoever it was I heard just now talking about, oh yes, it was, wasn't it? Surrey Council, Surrey Social Services, NHS, they what was it? They were saying, oh, we apologise. You haven't broken the dinner service. You have broken a child's life. You have broken an already broken system, but you've broken any trust from anyone. There's a lot of other people here should be accountable. I do not believe that neighbours did not hear this brutality that was meted on this poor, beautiful child. You know, I was in a good mood when your producer rang this morning, and now I'm furious. I'm furious because the system has been broken for decades and no one in this country gives a monkeys about the protection of children. We hear time and time again. Has anything moved on since Victoria Colombier? No. And, you know, it's you can't blame the school. The school actually did the right job. I was a deputy head, so I know what they did was right. And they were put off and they had the bruises. The thing is, they should have, if there's anything, they should have actually really, really kicked and pressed the flesh and really gone in for it big time, you know? These people, I would like to say also that I think there needs to be brought in a homeschooling register, because this is where abusers hide behind. They slide away when they think that, you know, uh-oh, someone's got something on us. But everyone knew this father was a serial domestic abuse abuser. And even that, children who are in domestic abuse situations for the last 2.5 years are meted as victims of that domestic abuse. So they knew he was that. She went to foster care twice. It's just outrageous. And I mean, no one does anything about this broken system, and it's absolutely appalling. And the people that didn't follow through, and what are they going to do? You know, they're going to have their fat pensions. They're going to, if I hear anyone say lessons have been learnt, I shall seriously implode.
Marilyn, what are those safeguarding officials afraid of when they fail to take action? Oh,
I'll tell you what it'll be. You know as well as I do, Miriam. It's the R word.
They're fear that they'll be called racist.
Racism, that's what it'll be. It'll be racism.
So you're saying if this was a white British family, they would have not hesitated to intervene?
They were still at the same problem because the system is broken. Make no mistake, the system is broken. I get cases, awful cases, every single day where mothers are not being heard. The police don't turn up. I mean, this should have been a police case before it was a death. You know, the trouble is social services seem to be like the police now. The police seem to hand it over to social services. And if social services say it's a crime, then the police step in again. But all of this is a lottery, depending where you live, depending who you get. And the trouble is with social workers now, since lockdown, they are all working remotely. And when you are in this sort of profession and you are newly qualified, it's a hideous job. I mean, really, I wouldn't want it. It's hideous. But you need experienced management that can, you know, overview you, that you can bounce an idea off and not make these decisions, which are the wrong ones, clearly. And there's no joined up thinking. You know, the NHS, new. Social services, new. Education, new. I don't blame the school. I don't, because they acted, but maybe they should have acted a bit quicker. I mean, I can remember when I was teaching, oh, my life, if I had any qualms whatsoever, I did not get off the back until someone turned up at the school. I mean, and you've got to, you can't, and also very well now, people being sorry, you know, honestly, I just want to sit down and cry all over again. This poor child, poor child. And I mean, it's awful. And the people that are culpable in this, Andrew, they need to also have some fine, some charge, because they are by third party culpable of this death. And an apology does not fix it. Absolutely does not. You know, oh, I'm sorry, your child's been murdered and beaten up with a cricket bat and an iron. Oh, sorry. Got it wrong. That's not
Marilyn,
good
I'm so
enough.
sorry. We are going to have to leave it there, but you're absolutely right.
Thank you, and thank you for making your point so powerfully, because you're right. And of course, nobody has taken responsibility for the death of this child.
No, and Andrew, the well-being of a child, even as we speak now, is every adult's responsibility.
Yeah.
I do not believe the neighbours didn't know. I'm sorry, I don't believe it.
Indeed.
All right, Marilyn.
Thank you
so
Marilyn.
much for that.
Well, the Conservative leader of Surrey County Council, Tim Oliver, said this horrific and incredibly sad situation was the direct result of adults murdering an innocent child they should have looked after and cared for.
We will now act on those findings and continue to review and strengthen our cultures, systems and processes designed to support good practice in working with children and families. Not much of a statement, is it?
Well,
not much of an apology to that. I mean, that girl was badly let down, as Marilyn says.
And in more child safeguarding failure, GB News exclusively has revealed that a grooming gang victim has written to the Scottish First Minister urging him to act on the matter. GB News' national reporter Charlie Peters will join us shortly.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Stay with us.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Claudia will continue to affect parts of Iberia as we go through tomorrow. It's continuing to bring heavy rain, thunder, large hail across parts of the Canary Islands, Portugal and particularly western parts of Spain, but it is pushing its way further east. Meanwhile, actually across many central and eastern parts of the Mediterranean, staying largely fine, some decent sunshine on offer and temperatures about what you'd expect for the time of year. Staying pretty unsettled for many across Spain as we go into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
Can't hear him.
Time is 10:48. It's Britain Newsroom on GB News. Now, GB News has exclusively revealed a grooming gang victim has written to the Scottish First Minister John Swinney, urging him to act on the matter, warning him that she is firm in her belief that a rapid audit into grooming gangs in Scotland is urgently required.
Well, this comes after the Scottish Conservatives put forward an amendment in September that would have required research into group-based child sexual exploitation, but it was voted down by SNP and Green MSPs.
Well, let's talk to the expert on this, of course, who's our very own GB News national reporter, Charlie Peters. Charlie, this is an extraordinary story.
It is, and the intervention today from Taylor, this grooming gang survivor who was abused in Glasgow, is extraordinarily brave, and she's taken this step because she needs her voice to be heard. It was great, she says, for GB News to carry her voice last week and to share her experiences and to let people know that this does happen in Scotland as well, contrary to the claims and the assumptions of many in the Scottish establishment, who I think for many years, and indeed in recent months in particular, have turned a blind eye to this crisis and are engaged right now in what I'm very happy to describe, actually, as a cowardly reluctance to face the truth, caught up in the same conspiracy of silence that captured England and Wales over a decade ago. We are repeating in Scotland what England has already been through. They are a few steps behind acknowledging this crisis, and it's through the bravery of someone like Taylor to speak out, first through us and sharing her story, but now going directly to the First Minister, John Swinney, with this letter. And she said that she's done this, she's written this letter to make sure that my voice is heard. And I think Taylor and her family, perhaps quite dispirited in some way, that we put out this piece last week and the reaction was quite mixed in Scotland. Some people didn't engage with it. And I can tell you now that I've been a bit uncertain about whether or not to say this, but I am aware that a lot of people in Scotland did not want to take on this story in the Scottish press because they either didn't like the issue itself, they don't want to go there into this difficult and dangerous topic, or they didn't like GB News. I think in some places it was both. But actually that's denigrating Taylor, that's denigrating her experience. And so she's gone one step further to make sure those people can't ignore her and have to recognise with her story and the truth. She said it's clear that grooming gang abuse is still going on in Scotland. She's told the First Minister, John Swinney, that today in this letter. And it also comes after the Bradford survivor Fiona Goddard spoke to us on Saturday, detailing how she was trafficked from Bradford up to Glasgow. Now, let's remind ourselves what we revealed last week with Taylor. Not only did she explain that she was a victim of the gangs that operated in England as well, but also that Police Scotland missed an opportunity to intervene in her case because her care records that we exclusively reviewed had information that said the police had visited her care home as a part of a tentative inquiry and did not speak to her, even though her name had appeared in a sexual exploitation, group-based abuse investigation. They didn't speak to her. They did not speak to her. And the care home said, well, everyone here is vulnerable. This is in the notes. So why is she being singled out? No progress in that investigation, a missed opportunity to protect her in this appalling situation. Now, you mentioned, of course, this amendment in September that was put forward by the Conservatives. The Scottish Government have said, actually, we've already got a strategic group looking into this issue, which is gathering information. They've got a separate child abuse inquiry. Police Scotland have said that they are reviewing cases, that they take child abuse very seriously. They have dedicated officers working in this area. But while the government and the police have told us that, we've also been able to show through FOI data that Police Scotland does not have any markers or indication or method for recording specifically group-based abuse. The question that many survivors are asking, and also politicians in Scotland now, is if you can't identify a pattern, how can you prosecute it? And perhaps we might see that question asked later in First Minister's Questions in Holyrood.
Which we'll be watching.
Which we will be watching.
All right, Charlie, that's GB News reporter Charlie Peters, and we will be watching for that question in Questions later on in Parliament. Now, we are going to be talking... What are we talking here?
Well, I think we've got a right to reply first. Scottish Government Minister for Children and Young People said the Scottish Government and partners are taking action through...
We'll do the right reply later. We're going to go to the weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Through today there'll be a bit of a three-way split when it comes to our weather. Cold in the north with a few wintry showers, very mild with a lot of fine weather across southern parts. In between, however, it's a much wetter story. Some persistent and quite heavy rain across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England through this morning. The rain breaking up and easing a little bit as we head into the afternoon. Across Scotland, like I say, there will be some showers around, could be falling as sleet or snow, but also some sunny spells. A chilly feel here though, temperatures struggling. Meanwhile, across central and southern England, well, lots of fine sunny weather to be had and temperatures well above average for the time of year, feeling, well, relatively warm in the sunshine for some. As we go into the evening, sticking with the chilly feel across parts of Scotland, a bit of frost developing quite quickly as we go overnight, and also a few more showers, some still falling as sleet or snow. Across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England, staying pretty cloudy. There will be a few outbreaks of rain rain at times as well, not as heavier as they will have been during the daytime. And then further south, well, central parts of England and Wales ending the day largely fine, but rain persistent and heavy pushing into some southern counties and then feeding further northwards as we go overnight. Now, it is going to be quite heavy. We could see some rainfall totals building up for some places, but across the northern half of the UK, staying drier with some clearer skies across parts of Scotland, so temperatures dropping even further. Could get as low as -4, -5 Celsius in some places, much milder where we have the cloud and rain further south. That rain's going to continue then for many places across England and Wales as we go through tomorrow. It could be quite heavy, particularly across the hills and mountains towards the south of Wales. High rainfall totals, perhaps up to 100 millimetres, could cause some impacts, particularly around some east-facing slopes. Further north, staying bright and fine, just a few showers to watch out for. Chilly here, much milder towards the south, but unpleasant in the wind and rain.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Thursday, the 13th of November, live across the UK, Britain's newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Downing Street chaos continues. A Labour civil war breaks out as Cabinet Ministers demand that the Prime Minister sacks his chief aide, Morgan McSweeney, as fury grows over briefings against the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting.
Most unwarranted attack on a faithful since Joe Marler was banished in the Traitors final, and I think whoever's been briefing this should spend a little less time watching Celebrity Traitors and a bit more time watching Country File.
Secretary Wes Streeting and border disorder. Shocking new footage for GB News shows people smugglers and migrants brazenly operating in French coastal towns before they jump on a small boat to here.
And local residents say they're being terrorised near nightly by significant disorder in their towns.
Is the President prepared to bankrupt the BBC?
The President has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidised by British taxpayers.
US Press Secretary Caroline Levitt tells GB News' Bev Turner that the lawsuit against the BBC is going ahead and the broadcaster has until tomorrow to remove their doctored panorama clip of Donald Trump's speech. Will they comply?
Not subsidised by the taxpayer pays for the BBC. And GB News can exclusively reveal a grooming gang victim has written to the Scottish First Minister, urging him to act on the matter. Charlie Peters has more.
And Taylor has said that this abuse is still going on in Scotland, and she has taken this extraordinary step to make sure that her voice is heard and action is taken.
And in breaking news, a review finds the system failed 10-year-old Sara Sharif, who was murdered by her father and stepmother. An independent review says the ISIS bride Shamima Begum, who is currently in a detention camp in Syria, should return to Britain to prevent human rights violations. Should she stay or come back?
No, I do not want to. I think there'd be a popular revolt if she comes back. She was convicted not just of being an ISIS bride, but she was involved in putting young women in suicide vests, sewing them into suicide vests. She has blood on her hands.
And I think this has come from a review that has said that leaving people stateless in Syria risks becoming Britain's Guantanamo. But to me, it just seems like, again, human rights overreach. Of course, you can feel sorry for the way that the 15-year-old Shamima Begum was groomed and taken abroad, but there have to be consequences, and the security of the whole country has to come first, surely.
Yeah. And look, you know, this Labour government is going to give the vote to 16-year-olds. So she was almost 16 when she went out there. We don't want to... By the way, one of the people involved in the review, Dominic Grieve, who used to be a Conservative Party Attorney General, a complete Liberal drip.
Yes, not Conservative, really. Well, we love to know what you think about all the topics that we're doing today. Send your views and comments to
gbnews.com/You'll Say. But first, here's the news with Sophia Hill.
Andrew, thank you. Very good morning. It's just gone 11 o'clock. These are your top stories. Sir Keir Starmer faces mounting pressure to sack his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney. That's as Labour's internal row deepens over anonymous briefings against Wes Streeting. The Prime Minister has apologised to the Health Secretary for the, quote, juvenile claim that he was plotting a coup and ordered an inquiry to find the source of the attacks. Sir Keir said he's determined to, quote, drive out the toxic culture inside of Downing Street and insisting that any attack on any member of my cabinet is completely unacceptable. A little bit of good news for the economy. Growth has just stayed in the positive territory. UK GDP rose by 0.1% over the past 3 months, despite a cyber attack at Jaguar Land Rover hitting manufacturing in September. The modest increase shows that the economy is still edging forward ahead of the Chancellor's autumn budget, where Rachel Reeves says that she'll focus on building an economy that works for working people. GB News spoke to Shadow Chancellor Sir Mel Stride earlier on about the news.
0.1% growth over the last quarter is considerably less than the 0.3% in the quarter before. So what we're seeing is an economy that is slowing down overall, not growing. And in fact, in September, the last month of that quarter, the economy actually contracted. So we actually went backwards. And I think these are further worrying signs that the policies that this government is pursuing, particularly high taxes on businesses, borrowing lots of money, spending lots of money, stoking inflation.
Now, GB News can reveal that people smugglers and migrants are operating with near impunity in northern France. Exclusive footage shows groups of migrants wearing life jackets and wandering through coastal towns unchallenged by the police. Residents say that they feel unsafe, describing rising levels of violence and criminality as smuggling operations continue almost in plain sight along the Channel coast. Breaking in the last hour, 10-year-old Sara Sharif, who was murdered by her father and stepmother, was, quote, failed by the safeguarding system throughout her short life. According to a review which identified a series of missed opportunities, it concluded that while a great deal of information was available to various authorities, even safeguarding professionals appeared to have been groomed and manipulated by her father. Sara was found dead in her home in Woking in August 2023 after suffering what was described as horrific abuse at the hands of her father, Irfan Sharif, and her stepmother. The pair were jailed for life with minimum terms of 40 years and 33 years, respectively, in December last year after being found guilty of her murder. Now, the White House has branded the BBC a, quote, leftist propaganda machine as its legal battle with the broadcaster escalates. President Donald Trump has given the BBC until Friday to retract parts of a Panorama documentary which he claims dishonestly edited one of his speeches. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said that he supports a strong, independent BBC, but warned it must get its house in order. The President's press secretary, Caroline Levitt, says that the ball is in the BBC's court, as reports suggest that the corporation is considering an apology to avert a billion-dollar lawsuit.
The president has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidized by British taxpayers, and he thinks that's extremely unfortunate for the great people of the United Kingdom and Great Britain. As you know, the president's external legal counsel has filed a lawsuit against the BBC. We expect that to continue, and whether they apologize or not is up to them.
Now, the UK's first small modular nuclear reactor will be built in Anglesey in Wales, backed by £2.5 billion of government investment. The project, run by Great British Energy Nuclear, is part of a plan to boost clean energy and national security. The Prime Minister has used the announcement to urge John Swinney to end Scotland's ban on nuclear power, accusing the SNP of bottling it and costing jobs. And the Princess of Wales will host her annual Christmas carol service at Westminster Abbey for a 5th year running on Friday, the 5th of December. The power of love and togetherness are to be the focus of this year's service, as the Princess wants to recognise and thank people around the country who are acting with love in their communities and contributing to a more cohesive and connected society. Among the stars joining the Abbey's world-famous choir will be Hannah Waddingham, Kate Winslet, Bastille's Dan Smith and many more. They'll all be performing some of the nation's most loved Christmas carols. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'll be back in just under half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.316 and €1.133. The price of gold is £3,220.65 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,879 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Got some texts and emails coming in, I think.
Apparently, I better have a quick check then, hadn't I, Andrew? Yes.
Who said?
But you do have a laptop too, you know.
I don't know how to access the GB News emails. I've never learnt.
Well, of course, people have been getting in touch about that breaking news about Sara Sharif and the review that has shown that the safeguarding services failed her on multiple occasions. Alison says, I agree, she should have been removed from them, her father and stepmother, and placed with a family that would have loved and looked after her. Maggie says, we need more people like Marilyn Hawes in the world, someone to champion the lives of children who live in abusive houses. Absolutely. And, of course, we've been covering grooming gangs in Scotland this morning. We've been talking about record numbers of online child grooming cases. We do have a problem with child protection in this country.
We really
it's
do.
Undeniable.
Oh, we do. Now, we've got GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White here, who's got some extraordinary footage about these wretched people who then cross the channel in small boats.
Yeah, it's a stark illustration, I think, of how the people smuggling gangs and these illegal migrants are just operating with impunity in French coastal towns. The first video we want to show you is just the most extraordinary imagery of migrants carrying these small boats through a residential neighbourhood, right in broad daylight, carrying. It's not as if you can discreetly smuggle that down to the local river.
And where are the police?
It's a massive boat. There's no police. this is the thing, you know, we are giving hundreds of millions of pounds to the French in order to boost their patrols in towns like Calais and Dunkirk and Gravelines. But here on the outskirts of Dunkirk, look at them carrying that massive boat, 20-odd people, down to a local river to launch it. And then other images we can show you in the second sequence of videos are migrants wearing their life jackets or carrying their distinctive orange life jackets, queuing for the free bus services that take them down to the launch beaches, or just wandering around the town centre with these life jackets.
Buses to take them to the beach?
Well, there are free buses anyway, and they go down to the beach, and they utilise that.
Are these for tourists?
Yeah, they're for tourists, but of course the migrants make good use of it. Now look at that image there of them just walking up in the town centres with all their life jackets on open display, and not one of them, when we were filming, was stopped at all by the police. Maritime security source.
All young men.
Well, I think there's a woman that is visible, but the vast majority, yes, are definitely young men, and no police intervention to confiscate these life jackets, which are an enabler of this illegal migration. But listen, it's not just the fact police are not intervening to stop them launching. You've also got all of the disorder and the increase in criminality that comes with it. Let's take a look at this next piece of video. So this is the town of Gravelines, which is just near the main beach launch point. For our radio listeners, what we're looking is at nighttime images on a residential street of a mob of 100 people rampaging through the streets here, angry that they weren't able to launch their boat successfully, clashing with the French police. Local residents have told us that it's an absolute nightmare, that they've seen their cars vandalised, their buildings vandalised, items like bicycles and things like that regularly stolen, walls graffitied. They really feel unsafe in their own neighbourhood. And then the next video sequences we want to show you are about the supply lines, the boats that the migrants are getting a hold of. We've got this image of a Turkish assembly factory. You can see the boat with its Go Faster red stripe there down the side, which shows you that's a different style of boat, the same kind of dimensions, but it points to the fact that they're getting them from different backstreet factories, often in China. They're shipped to Turkey and then onwards into Europe to the likes of Germany. And just to show you that the boat from that factory is now in use in northern France, we can show you this next piece of imagery here. That's looking out on a boat that just launched at the weekend when 2,000 plus migrants crossed. And what do we see? That distinctive Go Faster red stripe down the side of that boat, showing definitive proof that the boats being manufactured and assembled in Turkey from this new supplier are now in operation in northern France.
So we know where the factories are. Why don't the police, the gangs which the government said they were going to smash, why don't they send up the police there to the factories and close them down?
Well, because they're in foreign countries, they need proper cooperation from the likes of the Turkish and German police. We're told that there is cooperation now, or there will be. It's been sort of put back, knocked back. It's not quite a priority for the German government at the moment, but there will be new legislation to go after these kind of workshops, backstreet workshops, where a lot of these boats are being assembled. They don't know where they are often, but when they do, you would hope that they close them down.
Now, Mark, I can understand from the French authorities' point of view why they're not particularly interested in fixing this problem for Brits. It's not in their national interest, perhaps. But surely it's in their interest to fix this problem for the residents of Calais and northern France. I mean, people must be outraged at the failure of the authorities to stop a crime wave, to restore law and justice. What do French people feel about this?
Well, this is a very good point that you make, Miriam, because yes, while the more cynical amongst us might suggest that it's maybe within, it's in the French interest just to get these migrants out, they don't get out because there's just a constant stream coming to these northern French towns. And these people are living a daily nightmare. It is hell for them in the likes of Dunkirk and Calais and Gravelines on the outskirts of Dunkirk, where a lot of these boats are launching from. And you can see the behaviour of many of these migrants when they're not able to launch their boats. They're angry, they're fighting with the police, they're vandalising property, stealing. Crime is up very significantly in a lot of these town centres.
Really extraordinary. Now, we've got a statement from the Home Office. You can have the pleasure of reading this.
But I know how much you like writing replies, Andrew. Well, a spokesperson from the Home Office did say the number of small boat crossings are shameful and the British people deserve better. This government is taking action.
Is it?
We have detained and removed more than 35,000 who were here illegally, and our historic deal with the French means those who arrive on small boats are now being sent back. But we must go further and faster, removing more of those here illegally and stopping migrants from making small boat crossings in the first place. Now,
Mark, they said they're sending them back. Under the one in, one out, have we sent 35 back?
Listen, the thing to mention about this that I think is very important is when they talk about 35,000 migrants that are being sent back, these are mainly visa overstayers and the like.
Right, not people who've crossed the channel.
A very small percentage.
Andrew, I think one of the problems has been in the past in that under German law, the German authorities are not actually allowed to close down factories unless a crime has been committed. They can't just say that in theory we think that this is suspect producing these dinghies. So maybe they're changing that. But these networks go through the whole of Europe and into Asia as well. It's a very difficult problem to stop.
Yeah. Well, of
course.
But
if I was living in Calais, I'd be up
You would.
in arms.
Now, GBNews has exclusively revealed a grooming gang victim has written to the Scottish First Minister urging him to act on the matter.
She's warned him that she's firm in her belief that a rapid audit into grooming gangs in Scotland is urgently required. And GB News national reporter Charlie Peters joins us now. Charlie, we've become sadly familiar hearing about these gangs and networks within England, but you've found that they probably extend well into Scotland as well.
They definitely extend into Scotland. We've got evidence not only of trafficking from West Yorkshire, from Bradford in particular, but also very strong evidence of these gangs operating in Glasgow itself, with a victim called Taylor speaking to us last week about her horrifying ordeal when she was in a care home a decade ago, abuse starting when she was just 13 years old and extending for several years by gangs of Pakistani men, she said, plying her with drink and drugs, using the exact same grooming model that we've come to recognise throughout the rest of the United Kingdom, in England in particular, but also in Wales, across Great Britain. So what we're hearing today from Taylor, who's written a letter to the First Minister, is she's taking this extraordinary step because, frankly, what we've done hasn't sparked enough of a conversation in Scotland. She is frustrated, is Taylor, that she's had this moment of extraordinary bravery, of coming forward, sharing her story. This should be a moment for every politician in Holyrood who voted against that amendment, who has resisted calls for further investigation, to say, OK, we're getting this wrong. Clearly, there's more information out there that we're not aware of, and we need to take a serious look at it. But that isn't what has happened. There's been resistance since then, and so she has now spoken to John Swinney in this letter, addressing him directly, saying that it's clear there's a problem. She's felt dismissed and she wants action to now take place. Well, we can now bring in a former Conservative and Reform MSP, Michelle Ballantyne, who joins us now. Michelle, thank you very much for joining us on GB News this morning. What's your reaction, first and foremost, to Taylor's letter published today?
Honestly, it's anger, because I think that the fact that she's had to do this speaks volumes about the lack of support, care and intervention to prevent young women like her undergoing the kind of abuse, the kind of impact that will have long-term on their lives from being dealt with. This has gone on for decades, and yet we're still sitting here waiting for somebody to make a decision and do something.
And Michelle, we're also having a defence being put forward by the Scottish government saying that they have a strategic group that reviews abuse issues, and the police in Scotland also say that they have a specialist unit for tackling this form of abuse. Why do you not think that this current approach is sufficient?
Well, if it was sufficient, we'd already be seeing action. The group, the National Strategic Group that she's talking about, was established last year. That's what she's hiding behind and saying that, you know, they will come up with ideas and they're going to discuss it next month. Well, what have they been doing for the last year? This has been a hot topic across the news, across MSN, across all the discussions. But actually, there's been quite a lot of pushback continually that the people raising it are somehow racist, or that they are bigoted, or that they are not in tune with the rest of the world. But the reality is that actually the government have been procrastinating. They don't really want to deal with this issue. So they create these groups, they create these expert advisory groups, they call them. But if they really cared and if they were really on the ball, they would have been coming out with recommendations months ago and they would have been acting on them. So you can totally understand why people on the ground are saying, hang on a minute, Baroness Casey's report made it clear what the issues were. The UK government have not exactly been doing a grand job of getting this in hand, but the Scottish government have just sort of waved their hand and said, oh, well, we're listening to everybody else. Everybody else is dealing with it. We don't need to worry about it. Well, I would say that people are saying now, no, you do need to worry about it. You know, these issues are devolved in Scotland, and we want a Scottish government that deal with it, not just talk about it, but actually move to protect these young women, because they have nobody. Most of them are in care, and the care system is letting them down. And we, the public, now need to stand up and say, enough's enough. We want action. We want it now. We don't want conversation. We want action.
But Michelle, what cut-through has this had with the Scottish public? Because it's taken years in England for this issue to gain salience. It has now done so, thanks largely to GB News and Charlie Peters, but also now most of our mainstream media publishing details of these reports. But has it had that cut-through in Scotland? Are people aware of these grooming gangs in the same way as they are in England?
No, I don't think they are. And I think the reason for that is the Scottish government has always talked in terms of somehow Scotland is different. We don't have these problems. We welcome integrated mixed communities. And anybody that makes any comment around we might have a problem here, or there might be issues within some of our ethnic minority communities, is immediately jumped on and called names, told that they're far right, told that they're racist, told that they're bigoted, and people become quite nervous about putting their head over the parapet and actually saying, hang on a minute, there is a problem here. And I think it is incredibly sad that the public all kind of just body swerve the issue because it's slightly uncomfortable. And for a young girl to have to write to the First Minister and say, actually, I am a victim and you are ignoring us, shows how bad it's got. But the public do need to wake up. The Scottish public need to stop just burying their heads in the sand and saying, oh, that's a problem down in England. We don't have that problem up here. We do have that problem up here, and it's been going on for ages. And yet, if you say anything about it, you're immediately branded and cut off and dismissed and silenced and, you know, basically not allowed on mainstream news. And I think this is a major, major problem that we have up here. And until somebody actually acknowledges that and opens up the government to making good decisions, not just protecting their ideologies, then these girls are not going to get protected. And it's incumbent on all of us to speak out. And I can't tell you how glad I was to see your report, because it has felt like any of us who mumble about it in the background are just being attacked left, right and centre. So I think this is time to get it out front and centre. And I know some of the opposition parties in Parliament have been trying. They've been trying to get it on the agenda, and they're just being voted down by the Greens and the SNP. But I think the Green and SNP MSPs need to take a long, hard look at their own morals, because they are badly letting down young people in Scotland.
Michelle Ballantyne, former Conservative and Reform MSP, thank you very much for your time this morning. Now, the Scottish Government's Minister for Children and Young People, Natalie Don Innes, said The Scottish Government and its partners are taking action through the National Child Sexual Abuse and Exploitation Strategic Group, which brings together key services and expert stakeholders, including Police Scotland and Professor Alexis Jay, to strengthen our collective approach against this horrendous form of abuse.
Now up next, find out why the ISIS bride Shamima Babe could soon be back in the UK. But first, we'll be getting to that with the broadcaster Carl Malone and the political commentator Jonathan Liss. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. 28 minutes past 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom live across the United Kingdom. And Andrew Pearce is making everybody laugh. So you can carry on.
Carl Malone,
Yes.
Shamima Begum.
Yes.
Infamous.
Infamous.
There's a review suggesting she should be back here in Britain. I'm appalled by the idea.
And I think everyone watching this programme will be pretty much appalled by the idea as well. This is a counter-terrorism review. And I find it astonishing, bearing in mind that over recent years, MI5 and lots of UK branches of the security services have said this woman is still a security risk.
Yeah.
She's been in a camp in Syria now for 4 years, maybe, and you know she will have been even more radicalised there. But we can't forget what this girl did.
Right.
Let's remind people what she actually did. She was married to one of ISIS's most vicious, violent lieutenants. She admitted to doing things like sweeping up severed heads, said it didn't bother her. She used to wander around the streets with an AK-47 because she was in some kind of police unit and she used to go around threatening people with a gun. This is a woman who is a huge security risk to this country, has been non-apologetic for her going to running away in the first place. But, you know, lots of the people who are excusing her saying she should be a... Oh, and remember Sajid Javid said years ago he had got some information from the security forces, and when he revoked her citizenship, he said, and people were complaining, he said, "You don't know what I know."
It was all the more reason for that to be tested in court, Carol.
What we do know is
that's why we're testing it in court.
You can't test it in court because there is zero evidence against it because it's all been destroyed.
Well, if there's no evidence against her, then she can't be convicted of any crime.
No, she was also sewing people into their suicide.
Look, can we come back to basics?
Killing people.
This was... I'm not saying that Shamima Begum is innocent of anything. I'm saying that she's a British citizen and she's our responsibility. And if she's done anything wrong, she needs to be tried in a court. And if she's found guilty of a crime,
Do you not understand?
then she should be in prison.
Whatever crime she has commissioned, whatever crime she may or may not have committed, there is no evidence now because of the war.
Carol, it's neither here nor there. We cannot simply keep her in the equivalent of a Guantanamo forever.
Why not?
She's currently in a camp in Syria. She's our responsibility.
No,
she's British-born. She was a 15-year-old child. We are talking a lot about grooming of children at the moment.
She ran away to join a murderous cult.
She was 15. She was brainwashed.
Do not tell me she was brainwashed, because at the time she ran away. When you're 15 and you look at the television and you see people being beheaded live on TV, which we were seeing at the time,
but I think
people are being burned alive in cages.
But Carol, this is a really good point. If we are going to get angry and hopefully take action on grooming gangs who picked off vulnerable girls aged 13,
But she
14,
obviously
15,
was vulnerable. She was clearly vulnerable.
And we call them victims. She was a victim at the time.
How can you compare the two?
But you say she has...
I'm not saying she's innocent now.
Because those young girls, many of them were drugged. Shamima Begum, when she ran away, was not drugged.
But many of them weren't, and they were groomed into believing that they had that these men were their boyfriends, and they were groomed into believing they were consenting.
And many of them were beaten to hell.
That's exactly the point.
Many of them were beaten to hell and back. It's not as simple as what you're saying, Miriam, with the grooming gangs. It really isn't. But this girl was actually, and people say she was groomed. She was 15. She was the brightest girl in her class.
Doesn't matter. Bright girls can be groomed as well by charismatic older men who tell them that they're going to have this glamorous life.
A bright person watch the television and seeing an English aid worker beheaded live on television.
Look, I think Carol, there are different issues to disaggregate though, because you could say there's a grooming argument that we've said, and there's also the argument that says you cannot leave people stateless, which she has been left, because that is a breach of human rights, and she is a human being, and as such she has human rights. And what this report is saying is that the conditions in this camp are so appalling. Who cares? Well, she is a British citizen. She should be. She is a British citizen.
Say she is a continuing security threat.
Well, then she
Why
has
do
to.
you want a continuing security threat either in a residential home or in a prison?
Andrew, I am saying
radicalising other people.
This country has dealt with very dangerous people before. If a court of law, and which should be held in camera if there's national security implications, if a court, a jury, a judge finds that she's a national security threat, then she should be put in prison in this country, not left to rot in a Syrian camp.
But the Supreme Court agreed that she was a threat when her citizenship was revoked, and they backed up the decision, Sajid Javid's decision. They backed up that decision. So that was the Supreme Court.
Court in the land.
And I think that was the wrong decision.
Surely the guiding
whether
principle...
you think it is or not is irrelevant.
Surely the guiding principle here should be what's in the interest of national security, because you can't put a price on national security, and also national security...
But Miriam, human rights are also important, and I just don't think... I think it also sets a very, very dangerous precedent if we are saying that people who do bad things, and we don't know she has, because as we say, there's no...
I'm sorry, there are reports from people who were out there...
Well, then that's the evidence that you're talking about. That's the evidence you're talking about, then.
I'm sorry, but...
Let that be heard in court, then.
Evidence? Do you know, there was a reporter, I think, it was from the Times, her name's gone out of my head. She was out out in the camps regularly, and she had talked to Begum regularly, and said she showed no remorse, and she said she was actually active.
What I meant when I said that is that she hasn't been convicted of anything. If there is evidence against her, I'm saying let it be heard in court. I'm not saying that she should walk free. I'm saying that it sets a very...
This country...
The best one in the world, I would take the word of MI5.
Okay.
Yes,
well, look, this is a human right. This is a very, very distinguished... Well, this is a very, very distinguished panel that's saying that...
Well, Dominic Grieve is distinguished.
Of course he's distinguished, Andrew. Look, this is... I think that we also just have to cover... This is...
Listen to what he just said. This review is not from people who we should be listening to.
I think it sets a very dangerous precedent if you're saying that someone who commits a crime, and again, she hasn't been convicted of a crime, but someone who is potentially guilty of a crime can just be stripped of their citizenship.
She left this country to join a murderous
I think we're going to have to leave it there, but it is very complex. There are so many different elements to this story. I'm sure it will come up again.
I suspect this is going to be in your column on the Daily Press on Saturday, Malone. I look forward to reading it.
I'll write a column in response.
Too. Absolutely. Have your fight through the comments page. That's how most people work. Here's your 60-second news update with Sophia Hill.
Miriam, thank you. Very good morning. These are the headlines just after 11:30. Sir Keir Starmer says he'll investigate briefings that unleashed a leadership row as he faces pressure to overhaul his toxic Downing Street operation and sack Chief of Staff Morgan McSweeney. A little bit of good news for the economy. Growth has just stayed in positive territory. UK GDP rose by 0.1% over the past 3 months, despite a cyber attack at Jaguar Land Rover hitting manufacturing in September. GB News can reveal that people smugglers and migrants are operating with near impunity in northern France. The exclusive footage shows groups of migrants wearing life jackets and wandering through coastal towns unchallenged by the police. Now, the government has confirmed that the National COVID Memorial Wall will be preserved to remember the lives lost during the pandemic and honour the sacrifice of public service of key workers. And the Princess of Wales will host her annual Christmas Carol service at Westminster Abbey for a 5th year running. The power of love and togetherness are to be the focus of this year's service. Those are the headlines for now. More on those stories at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, and we've just heard that the government is set to scrap police and crime commissioners following major criticism from police chiefs. The system was introduced back in 2012 under the Conservatives.
Completely pointless they were, and the turnout in the votes for them was barely 15%.
1%.
Although, Andrew, the turnout in those elections was due to a bit of coalition jiggery-pokery.
Right.
The Lib Dems didn't want them to be elected at the same time as local elections because the Lib Dems thought if people were thinking about crime, justice, law and order, they're not going to vote for the wishy-washy Liberals. It would have down-ballot effects. So they made the elections happen in October or November, I think it was.
It was a curious
time. There was some turnout stage. So the only vote that people were going for were these police and crime commissioners. Terrible name, by the way. The original proposal was to call them sheriffs, which would have been much more fun. Imagine them with rootin' tootin' hats and badges.
Sheriff of Nottingham.
But then there were some polling stations where literally no one went to vote.
I know.
If they'd given them a proper name, combined them with proper elections, it would have been such a disaster.
It's been like this all morning. Just saying good morning to Tom has been problematical. He just goes off on a complete tangent.
Walking Wikipedia.
Hello, Claire. Dawn. Nice to see
Dawn.
you. We've got a very good show coming up.
Absolutely.
Haven't we, Tom?
3 hours of police and crime commission news.
I'll be tuning in.
We have got some other stuff coming up.
I think you should go speak to a police and crime commissioner who's about to lose his or her job.
We are going to try. We will be carrying on with that story briefly, won't we?
Well, of course,
Tom?
we're currently sitting in a city that doesn't have a police and crime commissioner. As some of the cities do that have metro mayors, the role's been combined with the mayor. I suspect that's what's going to happen across the country.
Sadiq Khan is effectively in charge of law and order in London.
We just had the crime.
Disaster.
We've also got a great Shamima Begum exclusive coming up as well. Yes.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Do you think she should come back?
I'm keeping my powder dry on that one until our show.
I don't. We don't want her back.
You'll have to tune into our show to find out what we think and the really good exclusive we've got on her.
Absolutely. Also, of course, the economy is in tatters, but who was new? It's another day that ends with Y.
I know.
Yes, so definitely the word
civil war in Downing Street. That's going to help, isn't it? Fix the economy. Civil war in Downing Street.
There was some analysis this morning that if you were trying to get growth down to zero. If you were actively trying to create the worst conditions for growth, what would you do? You might set a budget that was going to happen months from the moment that you announced it. Create the maximum amount of speculation. Create the maximum amount of abrasion within number 10. I mean, what sort of environment is this for anyone to invest, to create jobs, to create growth? I mean, in many ways, the government is bringing this on themselves.
But also, figures out show that the cyber attack on Jaguar Land Rover resulted in a 28% contraction in the entire car industry. So there are external factors as well.
There are, however, I mean, if you were to, if everything was hunky-dory at Jaguar Land Rover, we'd have growth of 0.2% maybe.
So it's we're still talking minimal increases. Well, all that's coming up and more with Tom and Dawn at midday.
Lots to talk about police and crime commissioners, just for you, Dawn.
Coming up next.
The clock is ticking for the BBC.
Are you going ahead and suing the BBC?
Well, I guess I have to. You know, why not? Because they defrauded the public, and they've admitted it.
Well, the clock is ticking on the BBC to remove their doctored version of Donald Trump's speech from 2021. Will they comply?
They should. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A real chilly feel to things across many northern parts through today. Also a bit of rain around here. Further south, much sunnier and drier through the bulk of the day, but some rain will arrive later, all due to Storm Claudia, named by the Spanish Met Service, but nonetheless it is going to bring some very wet and windy weather to the UK tomorrow. Before that though, like I say, pretty chilly across parts of Scotland. Some showers, could be a bit wintry at times, some sleet, some snow here feeding their way through. Cloudier and wetter across parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England. Much drier, much brighter and warmer as well across central southern parts of England and Wales. Temperatures well above average for the time of year. We're looking at highs around 16 or 17 Celsius. Then as we go through towards this evening and we start to see that rain from Storm Claudia pushing its way in, so turning wet across those southern counties, staying dry for a little while longer across more central parts of England and Wales, but the rain will arrive overnight, and then a damp end to the day across many parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England. Still a few wintry showers piling in from the north on that Arctic air across some northern parts of Scotland. A chilly night to come here. Clearer skies across the northern half of Scotland will allow temperatures to drop several degrees below freezing, so watch out for some frost, maybe even some icy patches. Further south though, a much milder story, but with that we have thickening cloud, increasing amounts of rain and strengthening winds as well. With that, because of that blanket of cloud and the unsettled weather, temperatures for many in the south are staying in double figures. So a mild start, but a wet and a windy start across the southern half of the UK for many of us tomorrow. Rainfall totals will be building up, particularly across the hills, across southern parts of Wales and other parts towards the Midlands, maybe northern England. We could see some high rainfall totals as well, and those strong winds too. So a really blustery, unsettled day in the south because of Storm Claudia.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Don't you?
Welcome back. It's approaching 12:15. You're watching Britain's Newsroom.
Didn't realise you were on air.
Andrew Pierce. And we are live on air, Andrew.
I've been getting some very nice Christmas invitations.
I'm pleased
so you
for
have
you.
to reply.
Can I come too?
Well, Christmas is getting closer.
Absolutely, it is. Feeling a bit more festive.
Yeah, so we think the BBC is ready to formally apologise to President Trump after that pretty serious doctoring of that speech he made, which implied, well, it didn't imply, said he incited the Capitol Hill riot.
Well, GB News' Bev Turner quizzed the US President's press secretary on the issue. Here's how it unfolded.
Does this strain the relationship between the President and the Prime Minister? And given that the organisation is publicly funded, is the President prepared to bankrupt the BBC?
He has always been very frank when he disagrees with leaders, even whom he has a good relationship with. And the BBC, being a fair news organisation, is definitely an outlet. I think these two leaders would disagree. The President has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidized by British taxpayers, and he thinks that's extremely unfortunate for the great people of the United Kingdom and Great Britain. As you know, the President's external legal counsel has filed a lawsuit against the BBC. We expect that to continue, and whether they apologize or not is up to them.
And don't forget, you can catch Bev Turner live with The Late Show Live tonight from midnight to 2 a.m. for all the latest on US News. Well, joining us now is the former BBC journalist Chris Middleton. Chris, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now, Chris, this is a very unusual story in the sense that it's a very British story about the BBC and what's gone wrong at the BBC and bias. And yet it has had this impact in America and possibly an impact on our relationship with the White House. Do you think Trump is serious about his attempts to sue the BBC for doctoring the speech?
Yeah, well, you're right. It's very interesting, isn't it? Well, I mean, the long and short of it is you can't splice up some clips of a president and make him say something that he didn't. I mean, that just goes against the basics of journalism that we all know. It's the first thing you get taught in journalism school. I mean, it's ridiculous. Whether Trump's taking it seriously or not, I think you could see there in the clip you played of Caroline Levitt, she's almost got a bit of a smile on her face. I think they're taking it almost as a bit of a joke, as a chance to sort of put the knife into the BBC. And I think from Trump's perspective, you know, it almost vindicates him in a lot of ways, because for the last 10 years, Trump's been going on about the fake news media and how everyone's out to get him and they're constantly misrepresenting him. And the BBC's just handed him that on a silver plate. So I think for him to take this forward, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. But I suppose from a British point of view, it's quite embarrassing, isn't it, on the world stage, that our national broadcaster that has had in the past certainly such a brilliant reputation internationally is now being labelled by the President's press secretary as a left-wing propaganda machine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just that it's being labelled by them, it's that there's evidence that that is the case, and that has gone now all around the world. You know, this is more than just the normal sort of liberal metropolitan bias that we've all come to expect from the BBC. This is a whole other level of literally fabricating reality to make the president say something of the opposite of what he said. And you know, credibility and trust in an organisation like the BBC, they've built it up over decades, but all you need is one or two examples like this for everyone very clearly to see in a 20-second clip what they've done and how egregious it is, and all of a sudden all of that trust is immediately lost.
Chris Middleton, thank you so much for your time this morning.
I think they will have to do some form of correction or apology, don't you?
I think so.
Because it was a pretty egregious breach.
It was, and it's very clear-cut as well, isn't it?
Completely.
But, yeah.
Now, up next, could you name your local police and crime commissioner? Mercifully, in London, we don't have one, although we do have the Mayor of London. Apparently, he's in charge of law and order. So find out why Labour want to get rid of the role. But first, if you want some of that elusive holiday sun, here it is.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Claudia will continue to affect parts of Iberia as we go through tomorrow. It's continuing to bring heavy rain, thunder, large hail across parts of the Canary Islands, Portugal and particularly western parts of Spain, but it is pushing its way further east. Meanwhile, actually across many central and eastern parts of the Mediterranean, staying largely fine, some decent sunshine on offer and temperatures about what you'd expect for the time of year. Staying pretty unsettled for many across Spain as we go into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The Home Office has confirmed that the role of police and crime commissioners is to be scrapped from 2028. Police forces will be accountable instead to local mayors or local authorities. The Home Office says this will save £20 million a year. GB News Home Security Head Mark White said, what was the point of them anyway?
Yeah, well, they were introduced under Theresa May back in 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
It was about being more accountable to the electorate so that they could put forward the policing priorities in a force area. But the fact is, only 16% of the public actually know who their police and crime commissioner is. 25% of the public go to vote for their local police and crime commissioner. The government expects that this will save money. They're going to continue until 2028. Needless to say, the Police and Crime Commissioners Association are very disappointed at this. They say there's got to be in place of the PCC an accountable democratic process to make sure that police forces are enacting the priorities of the public.
Very succinct. Thank you very much, Mark. Well, that's all from us. I'll be back with Alex Armstrong tomorrow. Andrew will be back on Monday. But next, Good Afternoon Britain.
With Tom Dawn.
And as Number 10 continues to descend into further chaos with briefing against briefing, we turn our eyes to the English Channel. It seems that Number 10 has taken its eye off the ball and the migrants are amassing.
And we've also got a great exclusive on Shamima Begum. Should she come back to the UK? You don't want to miss that one. It's a great story.
Absolutely, all to come 12 till 3 after your latest weather forecast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Through today there'll be a bit of a three-way split when it comes to our weather. Cold in the north with a few wintry showers, very mild with a lot of fine weather across southern parts. In between, however, it's a much wetter story. Some persistent and quite heavy rain across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England through this morning. The rain breaking up and easing a little bit as we head into the afternoon. Across Scotland, like I say, there will be some showers around, could be falling as sleet or snow, but also some sunny spells. A chilly feel here though, temperatures struggling. Meanwhile, across central and southern England, well, lots of fine sunny weather to be had and temperatures well above average for the time of year, feeling, well, relatively warm in the sunshine for some. As we go into the evening, sticking with the chilly feel across parts of Scotland, a bit of frost developing quite quickly as we go overnight, and also a few more showers, some still falling as sleet or snow. Across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England, staying pretty cloudy. There will be a few outbreaks of rain at times as well, not as heavier as they will have been during the daytime. And then further south, well, central parts of England and Wales ending the day largely fine, but rain persistent and heavy pushing into some southern counties and then feeding further northwards as we go overnight. Now, it is going to be quite heavy. We could see some rainfall totals building up for some places, but across the northern half of the UK, staying drier with some clearer skies across parts of Scotland, so temperatures dropping even further. Could get as low as -4, -5 Celsius in some places, much milder where we have the cloud and rain further south. That rain's going to continue then for many places across England and Wales as we go through tomorrow. It could be quite heavy, particularly across the hills and mountains towards the south of Wales. High rainfall totals, perhaps up to 100 millimetres, could cause some impacts, particularly around some east-facing slopes. Further north, staying bright and fine, just a few showers to watch out for. Chilly here, much milder towards the south, but unpleasant in the wind and rain.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas to you this year. There's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 the best year yet. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News goodie bag. And we'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Thursday, the 13th of November. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Dawn Neeson.
Well, border disorder, yes, shocking new footage obtained by GB News shows people smugglers and migrants brazenly operating in French coastal towns before they, no doubt, jump on a small boat to the United Kingdom.
And local residents have told us they feel terrorised by often nightly disorder in their towns.
Meanwhile, breaking news, Labour will scrap police and crime commissioners in the biggest shake-up of policing for more than a decade.
Is the President prepared to bankrupt the BBC?
The President has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidised by British taxpayers.
Yes, the US Press Secretary Caroline Levitt tells GB News' very own Bev Turner that the lawsuit against the BBC is going ahead and the broadcaster has 24 hours to remove their doctored panorama clip of Donald Trump. Will they do it?
And 10